I watched their faces as I signed the papers, memorizing every detail of their expressions. The way Derek's left eye twitched slightly, the gleam in Valerie's steel-gray eyes, the matching predatory smiles they wore, thinking they'd finally won. My name is Prudence, and I've spent 5 years married to a man who thinks I'm an idiot. There you go, sweetheart, Derek said, his hand resting on my shoulder with practiced tenderness. Now you don't have to worry about anything while you're recovering from surgery. I looked up at him, channeling the same docile expression I'd perfected over the years. You're sure this is just temporary? Just for while I'm under? Valerie stepped forward, her designer perfume suffocating the small space between us. Of course, dear. We just want to make sure everything's taken care of properly. You know how these things can be complicated. I did know, better than they realized. Would you like some tea? I asked, standing up from the dining room table. I just bought that vanilla chai you love, Valerie. Oh, that would be lovely, she cooed, already reaching for the papers I'd signed. Her French manicured nails clicked against the hardwood as she gathered them. In the kitchen, I took 3 mugs from the cabinet, remembering the first time Valerie had helped organize my kitchen after the wedding. A proper home needs proper order, she'd said, rearranging everything until I could barely find my own coffee cups. Do you need help, honey? Derek called from the dining room. I've got it, I replied, arranging cookies on a plate. Through the serving window, I could see them huddled over the documents, whispering. Valerie pointed to something, and Derek nodded, his smile widening. The kettle whistled. Here we are, I said, carrying the tray back. Careful, it's hot. Valerie took a delicate sip. Perfect as always. You know, Derek, she may not be much of a career woman, but she does make excellent tea. Mom? Derek warned, but I caught his slight smirk. Oh, I'm just teasing, Valerie laughed. We all know Prudence's talents lie elsewhere. I stirred honey into my tea. Like my grandmother always said, there's value in being underestimated. They both stiffened slightly before Valerie forced another laugh. Your grandmother? Yes, dear Zella. Such a strong-willed woman. She was, I agreed. She taught me everything I know about protecting what's mine. Derek's hand found mine under the table, squeezing too hard. Nobody's trying to take anything from you, Prue. This is about protecting you. I squeezed back, gentle as always. I know. I trust you both completely. Valerie stood, smoothing her silk blouse. Well, we should get these filed right away. The surgery's next week, and we want everything in order. Of course, I said, walking them to the door. Thank you both for looking out for me. Derek kissed my cheek. Get some rest. I'll be home late. Big client meeting. I watched them drive away in Valerie's Mercedes, the papers tucked safely in her designer briefcase. My phone buzzed with a text from Haley. Done? Yes, I typed back. They signed exactly where Xavier marked. Never even noticed the difference. I closed the door and leaned against it, finally letting my mask slip. 5 years of playing the dutiful wife, the grateful daughter-in-law, the simple little homemaker who couldn't possibly understand complex financial matters. 5 years of watching them chip away at my independence, my confidence, my inheritance. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Xavier. Documents received. Everything's in place. I smiled, thinking of the identical-looking papers they'd just signed, papers that would trigger something very different from what they intended. They thought they were taking control of my assets. Instead, they'd just signed over their entire business. What they'd signed sealed their own fate. They just didn't know it yet. The first red flag appeared 3 years ago, hidden in a stack of credit card statements. I was paying bills when I noticed charges I didn't recognize, expensive restaurants on nights Derek claimed he was working late, jewelry stores around Valentine's Day when I'd received nothing. It's just business expenses, he'd said when I asked. Client meetings, corporate gifts, you wouldn't understand. I understood perfectly. Look at this, I said to Haley over coffee the next day, sliding her a folder of statements. My best friend's eyes widened as she flipped through the pages. These charges from the business account, They're billing you for services you never received? She pointed to a line item for event design consultation, $3,500. Apparently, I've been ordering luxury centerpieces and premium lighting packages for events that don't exist. I stirred my latte. Valerie handles all the billing for their company. Haley's face darkened. This is fraud, Prue, plain and simple. I know, but that's not even the worst part. I pulled out another document, my grandmother's trust agreement. They've been trying to get me to simplify the trust structure for months. Derek says it's too complicated, that their company accountant should manage it. Don't you dare let them touch that trust, Haley snapped. Your grandmother put those protections in place for a reason. I remembered Grandmother Zella's words on her deathbed. Keep the wolves away from the door, little one. They'll come dressed as shepherds, but they're still wolves. My phone buzzed, Valerie calling. I let it go to voicemail. You need a lawyer, Haley said. I know someone, Xavier Bryant. He specializes in estate protection and financial fraud. 2 days later, I sat in Xavier's office, surrounded by the evidence I'd gathered. Smart of you to keep records, he said, reviewing the documents, especially these texts from your mother-in-law about restructuring your assets. I save everything, I replied, every email, every bank statement, every mistake in their billing. Xavier leaned forward. Tell me about your upcoming surgery. Spinal fusion, 6-hour procedure, 3-day hospital stay. That's when they want control, while I'm under anesthesia and recovering. And they presented you with power of attorney documents? I nodded. They're getting desperate. Last month, I overheard Valerie telling Derek their business is underwater, something about missed loan payments and angry investors. Which explains their sudden interest in your grandmother's trust, Xavier said. How much are we talking about? Enough to save their company 10 times over. I pulled out my phone, showing him a recent text from Derek. Mom's just trying to help manage things while you're sick. Why are you being so difficult? Xavier's eyes narrowed. Classic gaslighting. Make you doubt yourself, make you feel guilty for protecting your own interests. He opened his laptop. Here's what we're going to do. That evening, Valerie stopped by unannounced. I quickly closed my laptop where I'd been documenting everything. Prudence, dear, I noticed you updated your will recently, she said, settling onto my couch, uninvited. I kept my face neutral. Just being careful with the surgery coming up. Of course, of course. She patted my hand. It's good to be prepared. Speaking of which, have you thought more about those papers we discussed? Actually, yes. I think you're right. I should let you and Derek handle things while I recover. Valerie's smile widened. Wonderful. You know we only want what's best for you. I know exactly what you want, I murmured. What was that, dear? I said I know how blessed I am to have you both. After she left, I called Haley. She took the bait. They'll never suspect the documents are different. Are you sure about this, Prue? Once you set this in motion, they've been stealing from me for years, I said, my voice hard. Using my credit, draining my accounts, trying to get their hands on my grandmother's trust. Now they want power of attorney? Fine, they can have it, just not the one they're expecting. I hung up and opened my laptop, adding one final entry to my documentation. Valerie visited, 7:15 p.m., discussed will changes, mentioned power of attorney again, everything proceeding as planned. The morning of my surgery arrived with a flurry of activity. Derek helped pack my hospital bag, playing the devoted husband perfectly. I've cleared my schedule for the whole week, Thoreau, he said, zipping up the bag. Mom's going to handle the Martinez wedding so I can focus on you. I thought of the Martinez wedding contract I'd found in his office, already canceled 2 weeks ago, with a hefty cancellation fee deposited directly into Valerie's personal account. You're too good to me, I whispered, watching him preen at the praise. At the hospital, Haley met us in the waiting room. Thought you could use some moral support, she said, hugging me. Derek's smile tightened. He'd never liked Haley. probably because she saw right through him. "Actually," I said, "could you help me with some paperwork while Derek parks the car?" Once he was gone, I pulled out an envelope. "Get these to Xavier right away. They're the originals of everything. Bank statements, contracts, recordings. The safety deposit box key is in there, too." "Already on it," Haley said, tucking the envelope into her bag. "Xavier's waiting for their move. The second they try to access any accounts—" "Mrs. Welch?" A nurse appeared with a wheelchair. "We're ready for you." Derek returned just as they were wheeling me toward pre-op. He kissed my forehead. "Don't worry about anything. Mom and I will handle everything while you're under." "I'm sure you will," I thought. "Oh," I said, catching his arm. "I left the power of attorney papers in your briefcase. Make sure you file them right away." "Already planning to, sweetheart." His smile didn't reach his eyes. In pre-op, the anesthesiologist explained the procedure while a nurse inserted my IV. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Xavier. "Everything in place. Good luck." "Count backward from 10, the anesthesiologist said, administering the drugs. 10, 9, 8. I wondered what would hit first, the anesthesia or karma. 7, 6. The world faded to black. Hours later, I surfaced through layers of fog, aware of beeping monitors and hushed voices. "She's waking up," someone said. I forced my eyes open. Haley sat beside my bed, not Derek. "Hey, warrior," she smiled. "Surgery went perfectly." "Derek?" My throat was dry. He and Valerie had some urgent business to handle. Haley's smile turned predatory. "They went to the bank about an hour ago." I tried to sit up, but everything hurt. "Did they—" "Oh, yes. They presented the power of attorney exactly as we predicted. The bank manager called Xavier immediately, just like we arranged." Through the post-surgery haze, I remembered the carefully crafted clause Xavier had inserted. Any attempt to access accounts or transfer funds would trigger an automatic fraud alert and freeze all connected business assets pending investigation. "How long?" I coughed, and Haley helped me sip water. "How long until they realize? They probably already have. Xavier said they're at the bank right now, throwing quite the fit, apparently." My phone lit up on the bedside table. Derek calling. Haley showed me the screen. "Want me to answer it?" I shook my head. "Let him sweat." Another call, Valerie this time. Then 3 texts in rapid succession. Derek, "What the hell is going on?" Derek, "The bank's saying something about fraud investigation." Derek, "Answer your phone." "Their company accounts are frozen," Haley reported, checking her own phone. "Xavier's office just confirmed. Every asset, every account, every transaction under review." I closed my eyes, remembering all the times they'd belittled me, manipulated me, stolen from me. The fake sympathy, the gaslighting, the constant undermining of my confidence. "Should I feel bad?" I whispered. "For protecting yourself?" "Never." Haley squeezed my hand. "They did this to themselves." The door burst open. Derek stood there, face red, clutching papers in his shaking hands. "What did you do?" he demanded. I looked at him through half-closed eyes, still groggy from anesthesia, but clear enough to savor this moment. "I learned from the best," I said softly. "Isn't that what you and your mother always wanted?" "Get out of my room," I said calmly, as Derek advanced toward my hospital bed. "Or I'll call security." "You think you're so clever?" He waved the papers in my face. "The bank won't even let me access our business accounts." "Sir," a nurse appeared in the doorway. "This is a recovery ward. You need to lower your voice." Haley stood, positioning herself between us. "Back off, Derek. She just had major surgery." "Stay out of this," he snarled. "This is between me and my wife." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Corey, Derek's business partner. "Prudence, where's Derek? Our payroll accounts are frozen, and we have vendors demanding payment." I showed the message to Derek. Looks like you have bigger problems than me right now." His face went from red to white. "You don't understand what you've done. We have 3 major events this weekend. If we can't pay our suppliers—" "Like the Martinez wedding?" I interrupted. "The one you canceled 2 weeks ago but still collected fees for?" He stumbled backward like I'd slapped him. "How did you—" "Mr. Welch!" A security guard appeared. "I need you to leave now." "This isn't over," Derek spat, but let himself be escorted out. Haley checked her phone. "Xavier says Valerie's at his office having a complete meltdown. She's threatening to sue everyone in sight." "Good luck with that," I murmured, adjusting my pillow. Everything they signed was completely legal. My phone lit up with another call, this time from an unknown number. I answered on speaker. "Prudence, this is Margaret from First National Bank's fraud department. We need to verify some recent activity." "Put her through to my lawyer, please," I said, reciting Xavier's number. "He has all the documentation you'll need." No sooner had I hung up than Corey appeared in my doorway, looking harried. "Prudence, I'm sorry to bother you, but something's very wrong. All our accounts are frozen, Derek's not answering his phone, and Valerie's assistant just quit after downloading a bunch of files." I gestured to the chair beside my bed. "Sit down, Corey. There's something you need to know about your business partners." For the next 20 minutes, I walked him through everything. The fraudulent charges, the canceled events, the missing money. His face grew increasingly pale. "I knew something was off with the books," he said finally, "but I never imagined—" "Check your personal accounts," Haley advised. "If they had access—" Corey's fingers flew over his phone. Then he swore. "Those bastards! They've been siphoning from my private accounts, too." A commotion erupted in the hallway. Valerie's voice carried through the door. "That's my son's wife in there. You can't keep me out." "Watch me," the security guard replied. I pressed the nurse call button. When she arrived, I asked for something for pain and anxiety. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned, but my body was screaming for rest. "You need to sleep," Haley said, gathering her things. "I'll handle everything else." Corey stood too. "I'm going straight to my lawyer. This explains so much. The missing contracts, the duplicate invoices." He paused at the door. "Thank you, Prudence, for exposing this." After they left, I checked my messages one last time. "Derek, you've ruined everything, Valerie. How dare you do this to my son?" "Xavier, all proceeding as planned. Rest easy." "Corey, starting audit of all accounts. It's worse than we thought." The nurse returned with medication. As she adjusted my IV, she said, "Your mother-in-law is quite persistent. Should we add her to the restricted visitors list?" "Yes," I said, feeling the drugs pull me toward sleep. "And my husband, too." "Already done," she replied. "Security has their photos." I drifted off thinking about the look on Derek's face when he realized I wasn't the helpless, simple wife he'd married, the one he and his mother had tried to manipulate and control, the one they'd gravely underestimated. The last thing I heard was another text notification, but I was too tired to check it. Whatever fresh chaos they'd discovered could wait until morning. Right now, I needed to heal, in more ways than one. 3 days after surgery, I sat in my hospital room reviewing documents with Xavier when Derek barged in, followed closely by Valerie. Their lawyer, a nervous-looking man with a wrinkled suit, trailed behind them. "This is harassment," Valerie announced. "We'll sue for emotional distress." Xavier didn't even look up from his papers. "Like you're suing the bank, and the fraud department, and the police? How's that working out?" "You switched the documents," Derek accused, pointing at me. "You tricked us." "Did I?" I shifted carefully in my bed. "Or did you just not bother reading what you signed? Too busy planning how to spend my inheritance?" Their lawyer cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could discuss this civilly." "Let me tell you a story," I cut in, my voice steady, "about a woman who married a man she loved, only to discover he and his mother had been plotting to steal everything she had." "That's ridiculous," Valerie scoffed. "We were protecting you." I reached for the folder beside my bed. Like you protected me when you charged $23,000 to my credit card for events that never happened? Or when you forged my signature on loan documents? Their lawyer's eyes widened. What loan documents? Show him, Xavier said, sliding over a file. Page 6 is particularly interesting. The lawyer flipped through the pages, his expression darkening. Mrs. Welch, Mr. Welch, you didn't mention any of this. Because it's lies, Valerie shrieked. I pulled out my phone, played a recording. Derek and Valerie discussing how to transfer my trust fund, laughing about how I'd never notice. My grandmother taught me something important before she died, I said, stopping the playback. Smart girls play dumb until playing dumb isn't safe anymore. You recorded us? Derek's face contorted. That's illegal. Single-party consent state, Xavier replied smoothly. Perfectly legal. Unlike, say, fraud. The lawyer closed his files. I need to reassess my position in this case. Mr. Welch, Mrs. Welch, I suggest you find new representation. You can't quit. Valerie grabbed his arm. Watch me. He shook her off and left. Derek turned to me, switching tactics. His voice softened. Prue, baby, we can work this out. Whatever you think happened. Save it, I cut him off. The divorce papers are there on the table, already signed. Check Section 3, the prenup violation clause. Divorce? Valerie gasped. You ungrateful little... I'd choose your next words carefully, Xavier warned. You're already facing criminal charges. My phone buzzed. Corey again. I showed Derek the message. Internal audit complete. Found evidence of systematic fraud going back 3 years. Police want statements. You're destroying everything we built, Derek shouted. No, I replied calmly. You did that yourself. Every time you stole from me. Every time you lied. Every time you let your mother manipulate and belittle me. I was protecting our future. Our future? I laughed bitterly. You mean your future with Jessica from the country club? The one you bought a condo for using my trust fund? Valerie's head snapped toward her son. What condo? Oh, he didn't tell you about that? I pulled out another document. Maybe you should ask him about the offshore account, too, the one he opened without telling you. Mother and son stared at each other, decades of manipulation and lies cracking between them. Derek! Valerie's voice trembled. What is she talking about? Mom, I can explain. Security, Xavier called out the door. We're done here. As they were led out, I heard Valerie hissing, What offshore account? Have you been hiding money from me? Once they were gone, Xavier gathered his papers. The DA wants to meet tomorrow. Think you're up for it? I nodded, remembering my grandmother's words from years ago. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Xavier. They were so busy underestimating me. They never noticed I was documenting everything, every scheme, every lie, every manipulation. They thought I was the prey, but I was just waiting, watching, building my case. And now? I smiled, thinking of the empire of lies crumbling around them. Now they learn what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. A week after my release from the hospital, I stood in Valerie's home office, watching police officers box up evidence. She'd been served with a search warrant that morning, and the house that had once intimidated me now felt small and hollow. Ms. Prudence? An officer held up a stack of folders. We found these hidden behind the filing cabinet. More fraudulent contracts, more evidence of their schemes. I nodded to Xavier, who supervised the collection of documents. Over here, another officer called from Valerie's desk, hidden compartment in the bottom drawer. My heart stopped when I saw what they'd found. A leather-bound journal, Valerie's personal diary. I shouldn't have opened it, but something compelled me to read. The first entry was dated 25 years ago. Another rejection letter. No one will hire a single mother, running out of options. If Thomas hadn't left us with nothing. I flipped through more pages. Derek needs braces. Can't afford rent this month. Had to borrow from loan sharks. You okay? Haley touched my arm, making me jump. I closed the journal. I never knew. Don't let it get to you. Plenty of people face hardship without turning into criminals. She was right, but something still ached in my chest. I remembered Valerie's face when she realized Derek had hidden money from her. The fear in her eyes, the same fear she must have felt as a young mother with nothing. My phone buzzed. Corey. Found something you need to see. Can you come to the office? 20 minutes later, I stood in what used to be Derek's office while Corey pulled a manila envelope from his desk. Found this when we were cleaning out his things, he said. It was taped under his drawer. Inside were photos of Derek with a young woman, Jessica, at various locations. Dinner receipts, hotel bills, a key to what I assumed was the secret condo. And at the bottom, a handwritten letter. My dearest Jessica, once everything's settled with Prudence's inheritance, we'll have our fresh start. Just a few more months of playing the devoted husband. There's more, Corey said quietly. Bank statements showing transfers to an account in her name. Large transfers. I sat heavily in Derek's leather chair. How much? Almost as much as he stole from you. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. So he was playing everyone, his mother, me, probably even Jessica. The police want to interview her too. Corey hesitated. Look, I know this is awkward, but I'd like to buy your share of the company. Once everything's settled legally, I mean. I want to rebuild it properly. You're welcome to it, I said. I never wanted any of this. That evening I visited my grandmother's grave, placing fresh flowers against her headstone. I did it, Grandma, I whispered. I protected what you left me. But what? But it felt hollow? But seeing the pain in Valerie's journal made me question everything? But discovering Derek's deeper betrayals hurt worse than I'd expected? My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a long time before replying, Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Riverside Cafe. Another text came through, this time from Xavier. Police raided Valerie's storage unit, found offshore account documents. She's being charged with conspiracy and fraud. I traced my grandmother's name on the headstone, remembering her strength, her wisdom. She'd faced her own battles, but never let them twist her into something cruel. I thought revenge would feel better than this, I told her grave. I thought watching them fall would fix something inside me. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment I could almost hear her voice. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, little one. It's living well despite them. I stood up, brushing grass from my knees. Tomorrow I would meet Jessica, another woman Derek had manipulated. Maybe we could help each other heal. My phone buzzed one final time. Derek. I never meant to hurt you. I deleted the message without responding. Some lies didn't deserve acknowledgement. Walking back to my car, I realized that revenge hadn't fixed my past, but it had cleared the way for my future. And maybe that was enough. The deposition room felt colder than it should have in the middle of summer. I sat straight-backed beside Xavier, watching Derek and Valerie squirm under the fluorescent lights while their new lawyer whispered urgently in their ears. Let's discuss the Martinez wedding, the DA said, sliding photos across the table. Specifically, the $45,000 cancellation fee that never made it back to the clients. Business expenses, Valerie said automatically. Everything was properly documented. Was it? Xavier opened a folder. Because we have statements from 6 other couples with similar stories. Cancellation fees, phantom charges, duplicate invoices. Derek's new lawyer cleared his throat. My clients maintain their innocence. This is clearly a vindictive attack by Mr. Welch's soon-to-be ex-wife. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Derek's voice filled the room, discussing with Valerie how to hide money from the Martinez refund. That's inadmissible, their lawyer protested. Actually, the DA smiled, it's not, and we have dozens more recordings just like it. Valerie's perfectly manicured nails drummed the table. This is ridiculous. We built that business from nothing. Everything we did was to protect our family's future. Your family's future? I couldn't help myself. Or the future you planned with the money you stole from me? You ungrateful little... Valerie started to rise, but Derek grabbed her arm. Mom, don't. Tell them about the offshore account, Derek, I said quietly. Tell your mother how much you hid from her, too. The color drained from Valerie's face. What is she talking about? The DA slid another document across the table, bank statements showing transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Mrs. Welch, were you aware your son had been moving company funds offshore since 2019? Valerie's hands shook as she read the statements. Derek? I had to protect myself, he snapped. You were bleeding the company dry with your shopping sprees and spa treatments. My shopping? Valerie's voice cracked. I sacrificed everything for you. I raised you alone. I built this business for you. While stealing from me, I interjected, both of you. Their lawyer tried to regain control. Perhaps we should take a break. No need, Xavier said. We have a proposal, full confession, complete restitution, and cooperation with the investigation. Or, Derek challenged. Or we let the DA proceed with all charges, fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement, tax evasion. Xavier checked his notes. I believe the maximum sentence is quite substantial. Valerie burst into tears. Derek stared at the table, his jaw working. There's more, I said, pulling out the envelope from his office. Want to explain these to your mother, Derek? The photos with Jessica? The condo payments? You son of a bitch, Valerie whispered, seeing the evidence of her son's betrayal spread before her. You were stealing from me, too? The DA leaned forward. Last chance for that deal. Derek cracked first. It was Mom's idea initially, he blurted. The fake contracts, the double billing. She said we deserved Prudence's inheritance more than she did. Liar! Valerie shrieked. You're the one who wanted to access her trust fund. You needed money for your girlfriend. I sat back, watching mother and son tear each other apart. Years of manipulation and lies unraveled in minutes. Their lawyer buried his face in his hands. I recommend my clients stop talking immediately. But it was too late. Between Derek's confessions and Valerie's hysterics, they'd admitted to everything. We'll take the deal, their lawyer said finally. I stood up, gathering my things. You tried to bury me, I said softly. But I was the seed. Outside the deposition room, Haley waited with Corey. How did it go? She asked. They broke, I replied, turned on each other the moment the pressure hit. Corey shook his head. I still can't believe how long they fooled everyone. Not everyone, but, I said, thinking of my grandmother's warnings. Some of us were just waiting for the right moment to show what we knew. As we walked out of the building, I heard Valerie wailing behind us, her perfectly crafted world crumbling under the weight of her own schemes. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's watching the guilty destroy themselves with their own lies. The morning sun streamed through my office window as I reviewed applications for our nonprofit's financial literacy program. A knock at the door made me look up. Ready for the support group? Haley asked, poking her head in. Just finishing up here. I gathered my notes for today's session, recovering from financial abuse. Jessica waited in the conference room, helping arrange chairs in a circle. After our cafe meeting, she'd become one of our most dedicated volunteers, turning her own experience with Derek into fuel for helping others. How many new members today? I asked her. 3, all referred by the DA's office. She smiled wryly. Turns out we weren't the only ones Derek and Valerie scammed. As women began filtering in, my phone buzzed with a text from Xavier. Valerie's sentencing tomorrow. Want to attend? No, I typed back. That chapter's closed. The local news had covered everything. The fraud charges, Derek's plea deal, Valerie's dramatic courthouse breakdowns. Last I heard, She was facing significant prison time, while Derek had negotiated a lighter sentence in exchange for exposing other financial crimes. "Welcome, everyone," I said as our group settled in. "Today we're discussing red flags and recovery strategies." A young woman raised her hand. "How do you trust again after someone takes everything?" "You start small," I replied. "You learn to trust yourself first." My phone lit up again. Corey calling. I stepped out to answer. "The business audit's finally complete," he said. "We've refunded all the defrauded clients. Clean slate moving forward." "Good. How's the rebranding going?" "Better than expected. Having you on the advisory board helps. People trust your story." I ended the call and returned to the group, where Jessica was sharing her experience. "I believed every lie," she said. "The promises, the excuses, the stories about his controlling wife. I didn't realize I was just another mark in their con game." "But you survived," I reminded her. "We all did." After the session, Haley and I walked to our favorite coffee shop. The barista already knew our orders. "Heard from Derek lately?" she asked as we sat down. "He tried sending a letter. I returned it unopened." "And Valerie?" I stirred my coffee. "Her lawyer contacted me about a potential settlement to avoid civil charges. I donated the money to domestic violence shelters." "You know what I love?" Haley grinned. "That they never saw you coming. All those years they thought you were just this quiet, simple wife." "The quiet ones are the most dangerous," I said, remembering my grandmother's words. "We see everything, we remember everything, and we wait." My phone chimed with an email from our nonprofit's board. "Program expansion approved. Additional funding secured." "Speaking of waiting," Haley nodded at my phone. "Looks like your real revenge is helping their other victims rebuild." She was right. The money and the justice were satisfying, but the real victory was transforming that pain into purpose. Every woman we helped through our program was another strike against what Derek and Valerie had done. "You know what's funny?" I said. "They thought my inheritance was their biggest prize. But Grandma's real gift wasn't the money. It was teaching me to watch, wait, and stand my ground." Outside, autumn leaves danced across the sidewalk. Somewhere across town, Valerie was preparing for her sentencing. Derek was probably in his cell, wondering how he'd lost everything. Their perfect facade had crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. But here I sat, stronger than ever, turning their destruction into something constructive. They'd tried to break me, but instead, they'd helped forge me into something unbreakable. "Ready for tomorrow's board meeting?" Haley asked as we stood to leave. I smiled, thinking of all the women waiting to reclaim their power, their dignity, their futures. "Always ready. The quiet ones usually are." Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't just exposing their lies or reclaiming what they stole. It was showing others how to do the same. Some people try to bury you, never realizing they've planted a garden instead.